One of our clients is looking for a Python backend developer. And the first question I was asking him was, what do they actually use on the backend? What framework? So I know you guys may struggle with some of these languages and frameworks, and that's quite understandable, especially if you haven't worked in IT. So I'll tell you now in a few minutes what can you ask the hiring manager right away, okay? And based on what principle, all right? So first things first, Python is a programming language, right? It's what developers use to interact with the machine, because developers don't generally know the machine code. It would be way too difficult, way too overwhelming, way too complicated, way too inefficient for them to use the machine code. So they use some easier to learn, easier to understand programming language, such as Python. But Python as a programming language can be used for multiple purposes. Same as with English. We can use English to talk about sport. We can use English to talk about IT recruitment. We can use English to write books about professional growth, right? So the language can be used for multiple purposes. Yet in Python's case, the purpose of the programming language could be, for example, to build websites. So historically, Python has been used to create websites on the backend, but also these days it's very popular because data scientists started using Python for data science. All right, so data science, a huge use case. Data engineering is another use case. So that literally means developers using Python to migrate data from one source to another, or to process some data files, or they use Python to create some simple scripts. So it's used to create some basic scripts, for example, to migrate folders with files from one folder to another subfolder, or to automate some server infrastructure, which actually brings us to DevOps. So Python is also used quite often to arrange the DevOps setup, to automate the infrastructure. All right. So now when we use Python and what everything could be used for, it comes back to what did the hiring manager said. He mentioned they are looking for someone to build the backend website with Python. Okay, so we know we need to zoom in here, web development. And then the question is, what else do Python developers use with Python to create these websites? So it would be either Django or Flask or Web2Py. So some of these frameworks that enable developers to create new projects easier and faster. And these frameworks are like templates in, say, Microsoft Word, right? You don't want to start a new project from scratch all the time, so you start from some template, or a presentation in Microsoft PowerPoint. You don't start from scratch, you usually use some template. And also developers don't want to start the new projects always from scratch on the green field, so they start with some framework, with some template, to actually make it easier for them, right? So they choose either Django or Flask or Web2Py. And then the project just needs to continue in that particular framework. So coming back to what I asked the hiring manager, I asked what framework do they use on the backend? And the hiring manager said Django. So now this is important piece of information. We are looking for a developer who has experience with Django. So it's not just Python as a core skill, but it's also Django as the second skill. And the rest is usually not as important. So we are talking about some testing framework, which could be, I don't know, PyUnit, or it could be the DevOps setup with Travis or Jenkins, Docker, Kubernetes. That usually doesn't matter as much because someone else sets it up in the team. And the developer does not have to start the DevOps pipeline from scratch. He would just use what someone else has already prepared. So the developer only needs two core skills, which would be Python and Django. And that's what you can start using or utilizing on LinkedIn when you are looking for the right candidate or in your own talent pool. So I would only focus on these two core skills, whether it is Python or Django, but ideally both at the same time. Or, you know what, you can only start with Django. And here is why. If you start looking for Python developers and you only type Python on LinkedIn, you will find all these other people who use Python to analyze data or to migrate data or to arrange DevOps, right? Like all these people who are not backend Django developers. But if you start with Django only, well then you will only get Django developers, because these Django developers usually don't do anything else, right? Unless they change their technical stack preference, which also happens, but you will find this on their profile really quickly and easily. All right, so this is my little trick on how to first ask a good question at the hiring manager. So don't forget to ask what the Python developer will be actually doing at work, what project or what is it the project about. And then if it is a backend development project, don't forget to ask about the framework, so you have an idea what to look for on LinkedIn or in your own talent pool, in your applicant tracking system. All right. So if you would like to learn more about these programming languages and frameworks, don't forget there is this booklet with all these mind maps. So the booklet contains like 29 mind maps. It is the IT Recruiter mind maps booklet with 29 mind maps. So it's just €1 for each mind map, and you don't have to write it down yourself right now from this slide, or what is it, whiteboard, but you can get this and you can print it out, and you will have it all nice in colors and beautifully printed. So you can get this booklet, and if you'd like to learn more about how to actually use this knowledge, then also join my upcoming program, the Tech Recruitment program. I organize it every month or every 2 months. So now during the summertime we will skip it, but the next cohort will be in late September or beginning of October. We will see. So I just click at the link that you can find below this video, get this booklet with 29 mind maps. It's just €1 for each mind map, so it's a great deal for now. And join my upcoming program, so you will learn how to use this all in practice. All right. So have a wonderful day, everyone. Let me know what positions do you struggle with, and I'll record a similar video. So let's keep in touch. Talk to you soon.